The Nissan Kicks is all new for the 2025 model year, and it's the most affordable all-wheel drive crossover in America now, starting under $25,000 with all-wheel drive, just over $23,000 with front-wheel drive. And in this video, I'm going to cover the exterior, the interior, take it for a drive and see what it's like out on the road, as well as talking about the kind of fuel economy you can expect, and then the pricing and how it compares to the competition. So as far as the Kicks here, well, I really love this new styling. It's really exciting and a lot more SUV-like than the prior generation as well. And they say that the styling is inspired by sneakers, and you can kind of see some of that inspiration here. It's a very fun design, but up front there, you know, it's a very bold front end there. I really like those little stacked LEDs you have beneath the headlights themselves, which are also really nice. Projectors, you know, a lot of companies these days are using cheaper reflectors instead. We have actual projectors here on this thing, which is great. This is the SR trim we're looking at here, which is the top one, but even this one maxes out only around like $31,000. And you know, just a really nice upright front end. I think it looks really great. Coming down to the sides, we also have some very fun 19-inch wheels that also have a funky design, but I think it actually works really well and looks really cool. You also have some nice little touches, like even the Kicks logo at the base of the side mirrors here, and that side profile in general is a really cool, you know, very boxy kind of design, exactly what everyone wants these days. And I think even a little taller and more upright than stuff like the Chevy Trax and some of the other hot sellers in this subcompact crossover segment. And then going out to the back there, I love that C-pillar area, and I love, like, you see the Kicks in the window there on the C-pillar, and you also will see just, you know, the two-tone thing here you have with the floating roof treatment is a really cool touch. And again, the very boxy back end, and kind of cool how it has like a little bit of an integrated kind of deck lid spoiler kind of arrangement there, and even other little touches, like you have the little ripples there in the bottom part of the rear bumper in the corners, just to add extra dimension, extra flair. The painted lower part of the rear bumper is also really nice, with a lot of other vehicles these days just having, you know, the rugged plastic everywhere and painting less and less of the car as each year goes by. And I don't know, to me it's a really nice look. It's great we can get it some good colors too. You have red, blue, stuff like that to make this stand out a little bit more as well. And overall, I think they did a really great job here on the styling. I'm really happy that it's grown a little bit as well, a little more usable than the prior gen Kicks, and again, having that all-wheel drive option is really nice. The interior of the Kicks is a really nice place to be. I was really impressed and honestly surprised and a little bit shocked whenever I hopped into this interior for the first time. It's really nice. Like, I'm kind of blown away. Like, there's soft touch materials everywhere. Everything feels really nice. We have top-notch tech. We have just everywhere you look. This is like a really impressive interior that honestly I think even puts some stuff that's a lot more expensive to shame in many ways. But anyway, first thing, sitting down in these seats. So here in this SR trim, we do have the leatherette and cloth combo. You will go down to just regular cloth seats in the lower versions of the Kicks here. But these are a really nice seat. These are the zero gravity seats that Nissan is kind of famous for, that are really good for long distance driving. I haven't driven this vehicle any long distances yet, but I mean, just from sitting here in a parking lot, they feel really nice. Yeah, they just have this really nice texture of the cloth. They're also heated as an option. That is an extra cost option you can get on both the SV and SR trims. And these ones also have this option for this Bose stereo system, which has these Personal Plus speakers in the headrest, which is a really cool touch, and something, there's a few, again, high-end vehicles that offer this, but you know, there's nothing, I don't think, even under $50,000 that offers this outside of the Kicks here. It's a really cool touch, and should make for a great listening experience. I'll try and sample it a little bit here in my drive today, but overall, just really well done seats. And they also even have, you know, the height adjustment and all that. They are still manual controls here, even in this top SR, but totally fine in my opinion. Moving on to the steering wheel here, it's a really nice wheel. It's got a flat bottom. It's a nice thin rim to it, so it's easy to get a good grip on it, and nice little 10 and 2 notches even, but great 9 and 3 grip. You have just a few buttons here on it, but it's nice and simple. Again, there's so many other competing vehicles that have just this whole keyboard on the steering wheel almost, and it's so refreshing to see just a few buttons. It's all logically arranged, really well done. Good job, Nissan. And it's a really, I mean, again, you have some like metal plated material here on the bottom of it, and the stitching, it's really, really nice. Moving on here to the gauges. So in this top SR, it's going to be a 12.3 inch screen for those gauges. If you go down to the lower trims, it will be a 7-inch screen for the gauges here, but still digital either way, which is great. And these 12.3 inch ones are really nice. It's the same basic display you see in other newer Nissans here, where you have a couple different views there for how it's displaying that information, but otherwise it's kind of your basic stuff in the middle there, either trip information, you know, seeing the song that's playing, all the basics. But it does all the basics really well, and I think it's, you know, pretty nice and attractive with the styling of it and all that, and really nicely done. And then coming over to the middle of the dashboard here, we have a 12.3 inch touchscreen, which is also, you know, pretty much, you know, right there as some of the best in class as far as screen sizes in this segment. And it's a really nice touchscreen. It does have wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, which is great as well. And, you know, it's pretty responsive to all the swiping and all that, and everything is, again, easy to navigate. It's not overly complicated, pretty simple, and that it has everything you need though. Now the screen is standard here on the SR and on the SV. You do get this 12.3 inch screen on both of them. If you go for a base one, you'll get a 7-inch touchscreen instead, but you know, still should be, you know, a totally fine experience even in that one. But nice to have the 12.3 inch screen here. And also here in the SR, you get the 360 camera, which is a nice large display here on the 12.3 inch screen. Gives you that bird's eye view so you can see how your parking job is and all that, and really great for maneuvering in tight spots and all that. And also, before I move down to the other stuff, up on top of the dashboard here, I have just so much respect for the amount of padding they have up here. You have the really nice dashboard stitching, and, you know, again, all of this is soft padded stuff, no hard cheap plastic basically anywhere aside from maybe the lower parts of the doors here, which you're never really touching. But like everything that's, you know, within your sight lines is really nice. So impressive. And even like this carbon fiber looking trim, it's actually padded. This is the first time where I've pressed down on what looks like carbon fiber and it's soft. But it's a really nice texture. All this stuff has nice texture to it. Even like on the doors here, you know, they could have just put regular crappy plastic around the window switches, and instead we have this nice cool texture with these lines on it. And you know, again, more of that padding with the carbon fiber look here on the doors. That is, could use a little bit of extra padding here. It's not super plush, but does have some padding. And again, more on the top of the doors here, and even like down by your knees here, there's padding with stitching, but it goes the whole, you know, side of this console here. So whenever you're, you know, having like adaptive cruise control on, if you're kind of resting your legs, you know, you have this nice bit of padding here. And this is something that there's some high-end luxury vehicles that still don't bother to give you padding, and you have rock hard stuff for your knees to rest on. And the fact that you have a nice little soft pillow for your knee here in the Kicks just shows how it's really punching above its class. And again, it puts some luxury cars to shame, I think. I'd rather be in this for a long drive than some luxury cars, just because of that extra plushness you get in here. And so anyway, yeah, I'm really impressed with that. But coming down, you know, have a volume knob, which is also great, and also a nice quick button there for accessing that camera quickly, you know, whenever you do need it immediately. And then you also have this little touch capacitive kind of panel for your climate controls, and that might be kind of hard to operate without looking down at it, you know, because you can't really feel any of this stuff aside from the little notches you have for the hot and cold and the high and low fan speed. They have their little bumps there. So that's a nice little thing just to, you know, allow you to be able to feel that. But everything else, you're going to have to look down. But with auto climate control these days, you know, it's usually one of those things you set it and mostly forget it. Heated seats, by the way, are still an optional thing here, even on SR. It's a package for SR Premium to get heated seats and this panoramic roof. So that's not, you know, a standard thing here, but nice that you have that for sure with the heated seats. And this panoramic roof is also pretty nice too for a vehicle, you know, of this size. And it's not too many that offer a panoramic roof, and it's not a huge roof, but again, for a vehicle this small, it's a pretty nice big roof and makes a big impression, especially for those rear seat passengers. But otherwise, here around the shifter area, you have a Qi wireless charging pad here, and that is something that you get, I believe, on the SV and up. And speaking of that SV, that is also the mid-grade trim that also gives you satellite radio and also unlocks the option for a heated steering wheel, which this one actually has that as well. You get that here on the SR, and really nice you have a heated steering wheel. That is also an option that some of the others in this segment do not even offer. And you can get that in the Kicks, which is very nice if you live in a cold place. Having a heated steering wheel is so nice and really great they're offering that. I also love, if they could have even just been like, all right, let's phone it in for the rest of the center console. But instead, like, we have, some painted red plastic by your shifter. It just feels like they really went 110% with this vehicle, especially on the interior here. And just those little touches that are completely unnecessary, but someone bothered to be like, hey, let's spruce this up a little bit in here. And I really appreciate the extra effort, honestly. And then also you have like super deep cup holders. Again, for small vehicles like this, sometimes, you don't have giant cup holders and giant bins, but I mean, we have super deep cup holders here. You also do have pockets in the doors with a nice large bottle holder as well. You also have a center armrest, which is nice and softly padded. You open that up and you'll see a pretty small space. It is pretty tiny in there, honestly, but it does have another power outlet in there, and still nice to have a little bit of extra space. I do have to say, as far as the amount of cubic feet of interior storage space, this might not be best in class as far as the amount of space available, but I'd say, again, it's really well thought out for the spaces you do have here. I still think it's, pretty well executed. But moving on to the back seat here in the Kicks, it's a nice and pretty spacious back seat for a subcompact crossover. They said you gained about an inch of rear legroom compared to the last generation Kicks, so it's certainly a nice improvement. I think last gen Kicks, my knees were actually up against the seat back when I was sitting back there behind myself. But now, again, me being 5'9", sitting behind myself in this one, I do have, about an inch or two of clearance there, a little bit more if I went into that cutout. I mean, again, we're talking about subcompact crossovers. It's not going to be enormous. The only thing I will say is that, like, the Chevy Trax does have a bigger back seat than this, if you are cross-shopping this with that. But, aside from that one, I'd say this is, certainly average, if not even above average for this segment these days. So a really good back seat, it has a good amount of headroom there. They also have a fold down center armrest here with 2 cup holders built into it and also pockets on those doors. They also have 2 USB-C jacks when you look forward there in that center console. Moving on to the cargo space here in the Kicks. It's 30 cubic feet of space, and it's a good amount of room. It's nice and wide, nice and long, and also nice and tall because of, again, the boxy nature of this design. Now, whenever you look on the sides, you'll see there's little tiny pockets there on the sides, and you lift up the floor, you will see that there's a couple other little extra cubbies there. There is no spare tire here, though. Still a good amount of storage space back there, and, of course, those seats also do fold down if you want to have extra space and forfeit those back seats. You can do that as well. But let's start up and go for a drive. The Kicks here has Nissan's new key, which is actually a really nice key. Has a little metal trim on the sides, and it's a pretty thin key, which I appreciate these days, and has the new Nissan logo on it, and overall just a really nice key. But of course it is keyless access, keyless entry, push button start here in these. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. Alright, so setting off here in the Nissan Kicks. Doing a little acceleration here, but so far, the first thing I really notice about the Kicks is the excellent visibility you have here in these. You're sitting up pretty nice and high. Again, a much higher sitting position here in the new Kicks. You have more ground clearance, 8.4 inches, by the way, which is a big improvement over the 7 inches of ground clearance you used to have. But, so new platform, you're sitting up higher, so that gives you a more SUV-like, view out, but also just the way they designed, like the A-pillars are nice and thin. You have the mirrors off onto the door, so very easy to see through that corner. Great view out of the back here in typical SUV kind of fashion, and just a really easy vehicle to drive. It's nice and small, and of course having like that 360 camera here in this top trim means that it's very maneuverable, very easy to manage. But even without the tech, it's just a nice small vehicle, and it's very easy to see everything around you, and so it's really great you have that just baked in. But I put it up into the sport drive mode, and I'm gonna turn on this back road here and see how it accelerates. Here we go. Punch here. So that's one of the other nice improvements here for the new Kicks, is that we have a bigger and more powerful engine. So it went from the old 1.6 liter up to a 2 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine here. It does 141 horsepower, 140 pound-feet of torque, and there's no 0 to 60 times given, but stuff in this segment is not overly fast, but it should be a nice little bump. It should be under 10 seconds now versus the old Kicks, which was, I think, a little over 10 seconds for that 0 to 60. So, nothing super fast, but, for for this type of a buyer, it's just about getting from point A to point B with enough, power to, go around without having to worry about it being underpowered, and it feels totally fine, especially here in sport mode, nice and responsive. But even in the regular mode, the throttle response is actually really nice, and these brakes also feel nice and normal, very natural, and like what you expect. The one thing I am noticing here, and I'm not sure if it's just this vehicle, because again, we are in some, early production vehicles here, but there is some significant noise under the hood there I can kind of hear, beyond just the regular growl of the engine. There's that extra little sound you might be hearing as well. I'm not sure, it's just only whenever I'm applying the throttle where that sound is going on, essentially. But aside from that, though, it's actually pretty quiet. So now we're up on a 55 mile per hour road here, so some higher kind of highway speed kind of sounds here. And there's a little bit more road noise, but they did actually make this quieter than the last generation. They say there is now thicker carpeting, there's new fender liners to help cut down on noise, and they actually went to some efforts here to give you better insulation compared to the last generation. So should be a quieter ride, and of course whenever you're not out on a noisy highway section like this, it's gonna especially be nice and quiet in here. But subcompact crossovers are not going to be luxury car quiet ever. But this one, is totally fine. I think right in line with what, you see from a lot of the others out there. And brakes also, as we're slowing down from highway speeds, feel nice and strong for something like this. Now, accelerating up again to highway speeds here, it's doing it all totally fine. So it is sufficient. Now, it is worth noting some of the competitors offer turbocharged engines, which have a little bit more torque down low. Some also just have more power or bigger engines. So this is certainly not the hot rod of the bunch, but again, it's enough, it's fine. And the nice thing is, having an engine with less power means you get a little bit better fuel efficiency, even whenever you are getting on the gas a little bit harder. If a lot of those turbos, they're great if you're very gentle with the gas, but the second you start using that turbo more, they really plummet the fuel economy quickly. So it's great that we have a simple naturally aspirated engine here, and it's also paired up now to this new Xtronic CVT transmission. And this transmission is the new one they've also put in, like Altima, Sentra with its refresh, and it's kind of mimics regular shifting a little bit more so than the prior generation CVT, and it is a new actual mechanical. It's not just software. Mechanically, it's also new, and so should give you some really good extra durability, hopefully, and it's again a next generation kind of transmission here, so should be some nice improvements there for sure. And we are coming up to a roundabout here, and I'll sample the handling a little bit because I'm not sure if we'll have super tight back roads to sample here today. But as far as the handling here, though, I mean, it handles all this stuff really well. The nice improvement here for the Kicks is the fact that we now have the option for a multi-link rear suspension. That is on the all-wheel drive versions, you get that. You still have a twist beam rear axle on the front-wheel drive versions. But, great, you have the multi-link available there, and that'll just give you, a little bit of more complex abilities, as far as managing bumps and trying to smooth over that ride quality, versus the regular twist beam. But I mean, there's lots of other vehicles in the segment that use twist beam rear axle there, and that's also going to be totally fine for a vehicle like this. Again, we're not talking about sports cars or something. It'll be completely fine. But if you are someone who's interested in slightly sportier handling, these SR trims are definitely the way to go, because you get these 19-inch wheels versus on SV you get 17s. You get down to 16-inch wheels on the S, and also when you go up to these 19s you get 225 wide tires versus 215 wide on those lower trims as well. So a little bit of extra grip here with these, and the all-wheel drive system also helps with handling, of course, as well. And there is also a snow mode now whenever you go for the all-wheel drive version, and that's going to give you, enhanced traction and allow you to, just have the most sure-footed capability possible here with this all-wheel drive system. And this all-wheel drive system, by the way, compared to like the one in the old Rogue Sport, this is a more advanced direct coupling all-wheel drive system. So instead of the old one having a clutch that kind of slips in the power, this, it's like basically on and off. As far as when it detects that slip, it kicks on that all-wheel drive fully, completely right away. So a little bit of a quicker response time there with that new all-wheel drive system here for these. And so it's great you have that. And we have another gentle corner here. And the other thing I will say is, ride quality is pretty good. Now this one being the SR, you're probably gonna have a slightly stiffer ride because of these 19-inch wheels and these thinner sidewalls and these tires compared to the smaller wheels with their thicker sidewalls that you'll get on those. But even on this SR, it's, totally fine ride, nice and smooth. I have no complaints whatsoever with the ride, especially again for this class of vehicle. Now, other things, you have a nice light curb weight still with these, so that also helps with the handling. These still weigh under 3,000 pounds for the base version. Now, one of these top ones is going to be about 3,250 or so for the curb weight, but I mean, in these days where everything is so heavy, it's really impressive they actually kept it as light as they did, even with all the tech, all the safety tech, all the extra space, the size, all that. We still have, you know, some really nice light curb weights here, and that is commendable. You know, they didn't bloat it too much, honestly. Now, if you go for the all-wheel drive system, you will gain about 187 pounds. You know, that's totally in line with what you'd expect for all the extra hardware required for the all-wheel drive there. And so yeah, it's, I love this segment of vehicle, especially though, because they're all just so small and compact and just light and, you know, approachable and tossable and easy to drive, and just nice little carefree vehicles in many ways. And now it's especially even more of a carefree experience because of all the extra safety equipment that you get in these now. And it's really impressive what they load these up with. I mean, now you have the Nissan Safety Shield 360, whatever they call it. It has a bunch of stuff. You have automatic emergency braking and, you know, those usual things, but you also have some of the more advanced stuff that used to be extra cost options, like blind spot monitoring is now standard. Adaptive cruise control, they call it intelligent cruise control, that is standard. This is something that still, like, Mercedes charges you thousands of dollars extra for adaptive cruise. You get it in a base Nissan Kicks under, $24,000. You get adaptive cruise as standard. Even rear automatic braking is standard in these. The only safety options you even have, honestly, are for the Pro Pilot Assist and then the 360 camera, if you want to consider that safety. That's more so just convenience. But the Pro Pilot thing is also just extra convenience. That does give you the lane keeping assist combined with the adaptive cruise system. Still is a hands-on system, but we'll do some assistance on the highway, and we'll test that out here in a couple of minutes. But that is the only thing I will say is some of the other competitors, like Toyota, for example, with the Corolla Cross, does give you their lane trace assist, which is their lane keep assist system, as standard as well. And a lot of the others do, give you that, lane keep assist system as standard. That's the only thing where this falls short of those. And that just comes down to how badly you want the lane keep assist. And if you do want that, again, you go up to the SR trim and you get it with that. But for those base trims, if you're shopping base versus base competitors, that is the one thing. But otherwise, I mean, everything else, this matches those really well. And again, it's just incredible. The amount of high-tech safety stuff, adaptive cruise that you get in a $23,000 Kicks, it's really commendable. And it's great that they have really focused on that safety component. Another area where this is really impressive is with the fuel economy, which is really towards the top of the class, even with this boxier, taller styling that you would think would hurt your drag coefficient, maybe drag down that fuel efficiency, but it doesn't. It still ends up getting 28 mpg in the city, 35 on the highway, and 31 combined for front wheel drive. If you go to the all-wheel drive system, you only lose 1 mpg in all of those metrics. Usually, that's another impressive thing about this all-wheel drive system. Typically, you'll be losing in other vehicles 2 to 3 mpg when you go for the all-wheel drive versions. You don't pay that penalty here in this, which is really impressive. And they say obviously this system does function mostly as front-wheel drive and only uses those rear wheels when it feels like it's needed. But it's just, those other systems do that as well, and yet they still, end up losing more fuel efficiency than this does. So really great. And I think, again, that's part of the perk of having a little bit less power than a lot of the competitors is, as long as you're willing to make that trade-off, you're going to have that better efficiency. And now we're out on the highway here in the Kicks, and I do have the Pro Pilot Assist system on, which again comes on these SR trims. And, so that gives you that steering assist. It is a hands-on system, but it does, give you that steering assistance, making those micro corrections for you. This is the first time they've offered Pro Pilot Assist on the Kicks here. And as far as the adaptive cruise control goes, it's doing a really good job here. We are going through some construction and stuff here, so as far as lane keep assist system, we will see. But I mean, the road lines are pretty clearly painted, and I'm kind of hovering my hands on the wheel here, just kind of letting it do the steering for me. And this is a nice, pretty straight road here, but it's handling all this stuff very well. So if you live in an area where you have mostly straight highways like this, you know, this is going to do a really good job. It's keeping me nice and centered in the lane. It's not ping-ponging. It's not, you know, sketching me out or anything. The ProPilot Assist system in past Nissans I've tested it in is a very good system. It's actually one of the more reliable ones. It's worth noting here, you know, we're at like 1700 RPMs, just kind of cruising on the highway. The engine, you don't even hear the engine. It's able to, you know, just cruise here at, you know, 62 miles per hour currently. No problem whatsoever. And yeah, it's a really nice little highway cruiser. And then especially whenever you turn on this Bose surround sound system, then, you know, you don't even hear as much of the road noise at that point, especially. And I did have more time to test out this Bose surround sound system a little bit earlier and listen to some good songs that have a good amount of bass. And, you know, the surround effect is really impressive. You can also crank it up or turn it down if, you know, you don't like that kind of a thing. If you just want a nice, clear Bose system, you can also have that. But if you're someone like me who enjoys that surround sound immersion, it really is fantastic. And I'd say, you know, because a lot of the other competitors don't even have branded upgrades, and the ones that do, you know, they're like, I think the Kona has a Bose stereo now, and, you know, one or two others that have some nice stereo upgrades, but most of the stereos in this segment are fairly underwhelming. I mean, they're fine. And again, we're not talking about expensive vehicles, so you can only expect so much, but I think I'm comfortable saying that this is probably takes the crown as far as best stereo in this segment. And yeah, I mean, you can really tell the difference too, because the built-in headrest speakers, whenever you turn your head, you can like hear the difference in the change in the song when you're turning your head. So when you're looking straight ahead, that's when you get the best immersion, because otherwise it's kind of interesting how the sound changes as your head is turned. But it's a really cool system, and I always thought that headrest mounted speakers made a lot of sense, and it's a very cool idea, and I'm glad that they have adopted this and, you know, taken, again, something that you see in high-end trucks and things like that and put that into this is a really cool little touch in my opinion. So if you are someone who loves music, I think Kicks should definitely be one of the top considerations for you, because it's really a great system. But really the last thing to mention here is the pricing and how it compares to the competition. And that is where Nissan did a really good job with pricing this vehicle here. I mean, like I said in the beginning, it is the most affordable all-wheel drive crossover in America. For the front-wheel drive ones, they start at $23,220. That's including destination, by the way. And that's, you know, a really solid starting price, with many of the other competitors starting a good bit higher. But then all-wheel drive is a $1,500 option, and so that, you know, puts the price just under $25,000 here for an all-wheel drive one to start. And then this SR Premium we have here with the all-wheel drive is going to come out to around $31,000. Again, you can maybe do some different paint options and other little things to tweak that, you know, upward a little bit. But 31 grand, you know, is what I would say basically to count on for one of these pretty much fully loaded. And that pricing is really impressive. So as far as how it compares to the competition, it'll come down to, do you want the all-wheel drive one or not? If you're looking at the all-wheel drive ones in particular, and the competitors that offer that, those competitors are all more expensive, and not just for their all-wheel drive versions, but just in general to start. The closest competitor actually is the Toyota Corolla Cross, which is also nice and boxy, very versatile, you know, great, you know, Toyota quality and all that, but, you know, that's going to give you less technology. Now it does match this, and like I said earlier, it gives you like the lane tracing assist, so it actually gives you that lane keep assist that you don't get here in base versions of these. But that Corolla Cross still starts at 25 grand, and then you add on, you know, all-wheel drive, that's going to, you know, increase the price even more. So I mean, this comfortably has almost a 2 grand difference between even that cheapest competitor. And then when you look at the other competitors, there's a ton in this segment, so I'm not going to get into all of them, but, you know, you look at Kona, Seltos, Crosstrek, HRV, Taos, and all of these are going to easily be 2 grand. I mean, a lot of them start, you know, 26. Some even, like the HRV is close to $27,000 to start for a subcompact crossover, versus this, again, starting, again, we're talking front wheel drive on at 23 grand. And so there's a nice savings here. And especially like HRV, I really praised for its plush interior, and this pretty much matches that on plushness. So, you know, it's not like this is even a downgrade compared to those on the inside. This has bigger screens, like that Honda. The best they can do is like a 8-inch screen in that thing. You know, this beautiful big 12-inch display of these big big digital gauges, you know, with Honda giving you like a partially digital, partially analog thing, and, you know, cutting more corners and just being less impressive with that one in particular. The Toyota Corolla Cross is another one, you know, no digital gauges in that, smaller touchscreen. Most of those competitors have smaller touchscreens. You know, again, I could spend 30 minutes going through all the competitors, but just the bottom line is that they are all more expensive, and I don't think any of them really give you any advantages. Now, when you go towards the top end, the pricing gets a little closer with this, you know, again, being 31 grand or so fully loaded. You know, some of the other competitors can come into like 32 to 33 grand fully loaded, and the strongest competitor when you are looking at the top end of this segment is like a Kia Seltos, primarily because they give you cooled seats and full leather at that, like, you know, $33,000 price tag. Again, still 2 grand more. You know, is it worth 2 grand extra for cooled seats and leather versus, again, these very nice cloth seats that really don't need cooling because they are cloth and stay cooler in the summer, versus that leather you have in those competitors that, or faux leather, that's going to get hot and need that cooling, you know, in hot climates. Some people maybe really love that full leather. I can understand that, but, you know, I think that, you know, that's, I wouldn't pay the extra for a Seltos or a Kona to get cooled seats. The Kona is like 35 grand fully loaded, even worse than the Seltos. But, you know, there's these premiums that you're paying. Now, the other thing I will say is a lot of these do give you more power. So, like that Seltos and that Kona and those top trims give you 195 horsepower. I mean, we're talking 50 more horsepower than this to give you a turbo, much punchier. Even like one of my other favorites in this segment, the Mazda CX-30, that also starts like $26,500, and then the loaded versions of those before you go up to their fast versions that they have, which is extra cost. But, you know, the regular ones, they still have 191 horsepower, 50 more horsepower than this. So if you are willing to flex on your budget, you can get more power if that's important to you. But I think a lot of buyers in this segment don't need to have 200 horsepower in their little subcompact crossover. And so I think that Nissan made the right choice here of being like, look, we have enough power to get this thing out of its own way. It's fine for highway merges and all that, and it's going to be enough, especially for people in suburban settings and stuff where you're stuck behind traffic and you're not doing wide open, you know, accelerations all the time anyway. So I mean, I think it's actually the more pragmatic approach to do less power in these, and I think most people will, again, get that fuel economy benefit and have all the power they need. So, but if you do want that extra power, again, just know that some of those competitors will give you that, but there is a premium to pay. Now, when you talk about front-wheel drive competition, there's less of those. We just really have Chevy Trax, we have the Kia Soul, and then you have the Hyundai Venue as far as stuff that only comes in front-wheel drive. Those three do not offer all-wheel drive. But if you don't care about the all-wheel drive, you can have some savings there, because like the Trax is the strongest competitor in my opinion. It's brand new, it's larger, it's got a bigger back seat in this. It actually has a longer cargo space. Nissan does claim best-in-class cargo space with this. I'm assuming it's because of the extra stacking ability of this compared to the Trax having a more sloped rear roof line. I think is kind of why, but I think lengthwise you have a little bit more in the Trax. And Trax also has a turbo as standard. You get like a good bit more torque than this as standard with that turbo, but that has a turbo 3-cylinder in the Trax. So you go down, lose a cylinder as well. But Trax is really impressive. I really actually enjoy Trax, and those do come in $2,000 less than even this to start. Even a loaded Trax, you know, it has all the option packages and stuff on it. Those max out like $27,000. So there's a comfortable margin there where Trax really does undercut this if all-wheel drive is not important to you. Trax is still, I think, the best value in this segment for front-wheel drive buyers. Now, you know, Soul also comes in about $1,000 less, as does Venue. You know, pretty similar with that, you know, savings there. It's less than Trax. And those also, the Venue and the Soul, are, you know, more dated vehicles. You know, tech isn't as impressive as it is in the Trax and in this, but you know, there's a savings there to be had as well. But again, you get less cargo space in Soul and Venue, more cramped inside of those, and you know, some other compromises, less horsepower, and you know, those two especially. And so, again, it all comes down to your personal preferences, your priorities, what's important to you, what isn't. But I would say, yeah, you know, if you, for some reason, don't like the Trax, or you don't like the 3-cylinder or the turbo, or you need all-wheel drive, I think this is really great, because like Chevy forces you, if you want all-wheel drive, you got to go up to their Trailblazer, which isn't packaged as well, and you know, just it ends up getting more expensive, and you know, is lumped in with all those other subcompact crossovers, getting up into the mid to high 20s just even for a base version, you know. So I think that Nissan really played this perfectly. I think it's really a nice sweet spot here with undercutting everyone as far as all-wheel drive goes. I think, in the colder climates, which is really what they're hoping to get some extra growth with sales for these, is in those colder climates where a Kicks wasn't an option before because of the front-wheel drive. Now you have the all-wheel drive. There's no compromises. The interior is fantastic. You have great standard tech, great standard safety equipment, brand new generation, all these great improvements, more power, new transmission. I mean, everything has been gone through and improved. And I think it's a fantastic little vehicle. Absolutely recommend it. I really have enjoyed my little drive here today in the Kicks. So anyway, that's all of my thoughts on the Nissan Kicks here. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Nissan for providing me here with this opportunity to review the Kicks for you guys today. And yeah, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.